Start healing and rebuilding financial trauma today.
Welcome back to Luminousz Ztarr Fables. Today we continue our playlist series, How Trauma Shapes Your Subconscious Money Beliefs. We will go over how the nervous system becomes conditioned to associate money with danger, instability, or punishment. I'll explain how this conditioning can form trauma loops and emotional reactions whenever a survivor manages major financial tasks. Be sure to check the description box below for more resources. Let's start with how trauma conditions the nervous system. When survivors of narcissistic abuse or emotional abuse face everyday financial responsibilities, the experience often goes far beyond numbers or bills. Trauma therapists explain that the nervous system becomes conditioned to associate money with danger, instability, or punishment. This conditioning forms what psychologists call trauma loops, automatic, emotional reactions that activate whenever a survivor encounters financial tasks. These loops are not signs of irresponsibility. They are the body's attempt to protect itself from perceived threats based on past experiences. As survivors move through adulthood, these trauma loops often evolve into reenactment cycles. Trauma counselors describe reenactment as the subconscious mind's attempt to resolve old wounds by recreating familiar emotional dynamics. This can show up as avoiding bills, ignoring financial notices, or feeling paralyzed when confronted with contracts or credit decisions. Financial experts who work with trauma survivors note that reenactment cycles often appear as chronic avoidance, under-earning, or self-sabotage. Not because survivors lack ability, but because their nervous system is repeating what it learned in survival mode. Now let's talk about attachment wounds. At the core of these patterns are attachment wounds. When a child grows up in an environment where love, safety, or stability is inconsistent, the subconscious learns to associate connection with unpredictability. These wounds follow survivors into adulthood, shaping how they relate to money, responsibility, and self-worth. Survivors may feel unworthy of financial stability, guilty for spending on themselves, or dependent on others for financial decisions. These patterns are not flaws. They are survival strategies that once kept the survivor safe. Shame and trauma bonding are two components that often show up, especially when one becomes triggered. However, shame is another powerful force that can also shape a survivor's financial identity. Narcissistic abusers often use shame to control their partners, criticizing spending, belittling financial decisions, or punishing independence. Over time, survivors internalize these messages, believing they are incapable or irresponsible. This shame becomes a barrier to learning, asking for help, or taking action. Only becomes part of a trauma bond, used as a reward, withheld as punishment, or tied to emotional survival. The survivor's financial beliefs become deeply entangled with fear and dependency. What happens when anxiety, despondency, and reinforced beliefs start up again? Financial responsibilities can intensify anxiety and despondency. When survivors face financial stress, the nervous system may interpret it as a threat, reinforcing old beliefs such as, I'm a failure, I always mess things up, I can't handle adult responsibilities. These beliefs were formed in survival mode, not adulthood. Financial challenges can also reinforce perfectionism, victim mentality, and escapism. Perfectionism emerges as a desperate attempt to avoid criticism. Victim mentality appears when the survivor feels powerless after years of being controlled. Escapism becomes a refuge when the emotional weight of financial tasks feels unbearable. I want to share with you guys something that I practice whenever I need to, and it's called self-regulatory processes. Some of you might have heard of this powerful self-soothing tactic. Healing these patterns requires tools that regulate the nervous system while building new emotional associations with money. Trauma-informed therapists recommend self-regulatory processes, techniques that help survivors soothe their bodies before, during, and after financial tasks. Tool 1, name, normalize, neutralize. Name the emotion. Normalize it as a trauma response. Neutralize it by reminding yourself, this task is not a threat. Tool number 2, the 10-second breath reset. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale for 4. Repeat 3 times. Tool number 3, ground before you look. Place your hand over your heart. Feel the warmth. Say softly. You can do this slowly. Then open the bill or document. And now let's talk about a few constructive financial exercises. The one-page contract method. Read only the first page. Highlight key terms. Return later for the next page. The micro-bill ritual. Choose one bill. Set a 2-minute timer. Pay or schedule it. End with a grounding breath. The credit compassion check-in. Check only the top section of your credit report. Say, my credit is a snapshot, not a judgment. Choose one small action. Complete it within 48 hours. I suggest financial safety planning to help keep finances managed in a way that makes sense to you. Just take a few moments of your day and create a customized financial planner. A financial safety plan protects your privacy, autonomy, and future. This includes creating a private email, securing documents, opening a separate bank account when safe, changing passwords, freezing credit if needed, and identifying safe supporters. A safety plan is not fear. It is empowerment. Okay, Now, I'll summarize PTSD and CPTSD. It's important to know the difference, especially if you're going to counseling or participating in a group for mental and financial support. PTSD develops after a single traumatic event and may include flashbacks, hypervigilance, avoidance, and emotional distress. CPTSD develops after prolonged trauma, such as narcissistic abuse or childhood neglect. It includes PTSD symptoms plus emotional dysregulation, chronic shame, difficulty trusting, and trauma-based beliefs about self-worth. Survivors are not broken or irresponsible. They are healing from experiences that rewired their emotional, relational, and financial identities. With trauma-informed tools, somatic grounding, and gentle exposure, survivors can break trauma loops, heal attachment wounds, release shame, and rebuild a financial identity rooted in autonomy, dignity, and long-term stability. Healing is not about perfection. It is about progress, compassion, and reclaiming the parts of yourself that were never allowed to thrive.
Grab your journal, take a deep breath, and take the next 60 seconds to write freely, no judgment. Here are 3 questions to help you understand how your past shaped your money mindset. When I think about money, what emotions come up first? Fear, guilt, pressure, or hope? What financial beliefs did I learn from the person or environment that harmed me? What would financial safety look like for me today? Not perfection, just safety. Now here's one tool to help you begin rebuilding. Start a small safety net fund. Survivors often leave abuse with hidden debt, restricted access to money, or financial instability. Building even a small emergency fund helps restore control and confidence. Did you know? Many survivors face long-term financial fallout like debt in their name, unpaid support, or credit damage, but they're rebuilding through budgeting, emergency funds, and trauma-informed financial education. Research found that journaling can cause up to 35% reduction in cortisol levels, which is a reduction in stress-related illness. 70% of licensed mental health care practitioners recommend journaling. Be sure to check out resources in the description box below.
Hello and welcome. Before we dive in, I just want to acknowledge the courage it took for you to even be here. We put this explainer together to really honor your experience and your desire to rebuild your financial identity with clarity, with safety, and with dignity. If you're here, my guess is you know exactly what this loop feels like. You might feel ashamed or just completely confused about money. Or maybe you find yourself in these patterns you just can't seem to understand. I want you to know you are so not alone in this feeling. I really want you to let this sink in for a moment. This is the absolute core of what we're talking about today. This isn't about fixing some flaw in you. It's about gently and courageously rebuilding a part of yourself that, honestly, was never given the chance to thrive in the first place. All right, so let's get into it. First, we're gonna unpack why these patterns happen, giving you that clarity you absolutely deserve. And then we're gonna walk through some gentle, practical ways you can start building a new, more empowered future for yourself. Okay, first things first, you are not broken. The behaviors you might be struggling with are not signs of you being irresponsible. They're actually highly intelligent survival mechanisms that we're gonna call trauma loops. So, what's a trauma loop? Well, think about it. If money was ever used as a tool for control or criticism or just general instability in your past, your nervous system learned to connect money with danger. So today, when you have to face a bill or look at your bank account, that freeze or panic you feel, that's your body trying to protect you based on old information. It's a conditioned response, not a character flaw. And these trauma loops, they're often rooted in something even deeper. We're talking about attachment wounds. You know, when love or a feeling of safety was unpredictable when we were kids, our subconscious learned to link connection with chaos. And that directly shapes how we handle money, independence, and our own self-worth as adults. Does any of this sound familiar? Maybe overgiving to feel worthy of love, or feeling anxious when things are actually stable because chaos just feels more like home? These aren't personal failings. The source material calls them attachment adaptations. They are brilliant strategies your younger self developed just to survive. So here's the crucial point. That critical voice in your head, the one that whispers, you always mess things up, or you're not worthy, that is not your voice. It is the voice of the wound. And once we can separate ourselves from it, that's when we can really begin to heal it. So why are these patterns so darn persistent? Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. It's all in how your brain is wired to protect you, even when that protection is based on totally outdated information. It's really helpful to understand the difference between PTSD and what's known as complex PTSD, or CPTSD. While PTSD often comes from a single event, CPTSD develops from prolonged, repeated trauma, like long-term emotional abuse. This is so important because CPTSD includes things like chronic shame and relationship instability, which are directly tied to these financial trauma loops we're talking about. And this right here, This explains so much. Your subconscious isn't logical. It's all about patterns. It doesn't aim for what's healthy. It aims for what's familiar. This is exactly why you might feel drawn to chaotic situations or even sabotage your own progress when things start to feel too calm. Your brain is just trying to get you back to an emotional state it recognizes as normal. So when a financial task triggers you, your nervous system might just automatically default to these old beliefs. But listen, these aren't objective truths about who you are. They are trauma imprints. They're echoes of a past where these beliefs were actually necessary for your survival. Okay, so now that we have the why, let's pivot to the how. This whole section is about gentle, practical, trauma-informed tools that you can use to start taking your power back one small step at a time. This first tool is incredibly powerful for stopping a shame spiral right in its tracks. The moment you feel that wave of anxiety or shame, first, just name it. I feel anxious. Second, normalize it. Give yourself some compassion. Of course I feel this way. And finally, neutralize it by reframing the situation. This simple process creates a little bit of space between you and that overwhelming emotion. All right, when panic hits, you need a quick reset button. Try this. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 2, and then exhale for 4 seconds. Just 10 seconds can literally signal safety to your brain and pull you out of that fight or flight response. Let's be real, facing a pile of bills can feel completely overwhelming. The micro-bill ritual breaks it way down. The goal here isn't to tackle everything at once. It's to prove to your nervous system that you can complete one tiny financial task and be totally okay. And celebrating at the end, even just telling yourself, good job, that's a crucial step in building a new positive association. I want you to think of this not as an act of fear, but as a profound act of empowerment. Creating a safety plan is about building a fortress around your financial autonomy. Every single one of these steps is you declaring that your financial future belongs to you and you alone. Okay, in this final section, we're going to look at how all these small, steady actions can come together to create a completely new financial story for yourself. Now, this is a beautiful and simple formula for rewiring your brain. You can undo financial shame through gentle, positive exposure. By pairing a small, safe purchase with an act of learning, you create a new neural pathway. You're teaching your brain, one little experience at a time, that money can be a tool for growth and empowerment, not just a source of fear. So I'll ask you, what could that look like for you this week? Maybe it's buying yourself a coffee while you watch a financial education video, or maybe it's buying a new notebook that's just for your budget. The goal is to consciously create a new positive money memory, no matter how small it seems. And please remember this. Breaking these deep-rooted cycles isn't about some forceful, dramatic battle. It's all about the small shifts. Choosing differently just once, setting one boundary, pausing for a breath before you react. Every subtle, steady choice is a sacred act of healing. I want to leave you with this affirmation. This is your story to write. You are not your past patterns. You are allowed to feel safe with money, and you are allowed to feel safe in love. You are already rewriting your story, and you are doing it with so much clarity, dignity, and incredible courage.
Hello.